Debate between Republican Dan Bishop and Democrat Dan McCready. We want to continue our debate right now. We're going to begin with Christine Spiro.
Yeah, let's talk about the budget. This month, Congress authorized and the president signed a measure that entails nearly $3 trillion in new spending through 2021. Meanwhile, the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office forecasts a deficit of $1 trillion next year and a debt of $29 trillion in a decade. So would you have supported this bill?
Mr. McCready.
It is absolutely insane what is happening to our deficits and our budgets. It's insane that we have a deficit of around $1 trillion, a debt of around $20 trillion. It is only the kind of thing that would happen if you get a whole bunch of lawyers and career politicians up in a place called Washington and then all of a sudden they make it happen. We need some business people up there who actually understand how to balance budgets. When I started a small business, we balanced our budget every single year. We made payroll, we balanced our budget, and they should have to do the exact same thing in Washington. This is why I've called for a constitutional amendment to balance the budget outside of situations of war or great economic distress, a constitutional amendment so that the lawyers and the career politicians can't do all this same old stuff again and again and add this massive burden for future generations.
Mr. McCready, thank you. Senator Bishop.
Well, there he goes again, not telling you how he'd do it. So what this massive budget deficit that's got to be closed, how do you do that? He would raise taxes on people because he thinks that's how you get there. Let me tell you this. Our tax cuts that President Trump passed into law are necessary and they have been successful. They've created the absolute essential factor for us to be successful, and that is economic growth at a substantial level. That is, you must have, if you do not have economic growth, if you do not set tax policy such that the economy is able to grow and grow fairly rapidly and produce jobs and the like, your deficit problems all get horribly worse. So that's the first irreducible minimum. And then after that, you're going to have to control spending. And that, he won't say what he'll do. You know, sometimes people in the media ask, well, which spending would you cut? I don't have a specific preference. I'll cut anything he wants to cut. But what we've done in the General Assembly to be successful, if we said we're not going to let the budget grow beyond a certain range of percentage because it's unaffordable. Senator, and that's what we need to do in the federal government as well.
Thank you. Mr. McCready.
There's one person on this stage who's raised middle-class taxes, and he's sitting to my left. State Senator Bishop raised middle-class taxes by $200 million in the state legislature. He raised taxes on the middle class, sales taxes on services. I believe in cutting middle-class taxes. If you think that we need more of these policies that crush the middle class and help out the 1%, which are about the only people that have benefited in the last 10, 20 years, he's your man. If you think our middle class is who needs the tax relief, I would have the honor of continue to fighting for more middle class tax cuts in Congress.
Let me tell you this. Tax cuts, we've cut taxes. We cut $1 billion in sales taxes, and then we did comprehensive reform and reduced income tax rates, and we raised the amount you can earn without paying any state tax at all has gone from $6,500 to over $20,000 for a family.
Senator,
let me tell you what, well,
go ahead,
Jamie,
quickly.
let me just finish this point. The problem is not reducing the general levels of taxation. That helps the economy. Let me tell you what is bad. The business that you so vaunt, your solar business, is built on a special tax break. And you went out and sold a tax shelter to the people in North Carolina who have absolutely the very highest incomes in North Carolina, people and corporations. You sold a tax shelter, and in the process, you caused a situation where electrical ratepayers pay $1.5 billion over the last 10 years, more than they would have, and $2 billion of taxes were shifted to other people. And in that process, Jamie, last point, you and one partner earned, by my calculation, approximately $18 million over a period of about 5 to 7 years.
Mr. McCready, respond, please.
Look, I don't have the opportunity in 30 seconds to respond to every lie that was just told, but I would come back to, for those who are watching, feel free to Google PolitiFact, a third-party ratings checker, and you will see that State Senator Bishop's attack, which they've made more than $5 million on TV, is false and misleading. We have lowered energy rates, and I'm proud that we've created jobs here. I guess by State Senator Bishop attacking our clean energy industry, he doesn't think that we should have the 30,000 clean energy jobs that we do. If I have the honor of serving in Congress, I'm going to do exactly what I did here, work with the Republicans and Democrats to create more clean energy jobs because it's good business It's good deals, and it's good for our state.
Mr. McCready, thank you. Jim.
Yeah, let me change the subject. During his congressional testimony, Robert Mueller warned about foreign interference in next year's election, just like there was in 2016. Do you believe election security is threatened in 2020? And if so, what should Congress do about it?
Senator Bishop.
You know, I think you got to define your terms. To the extent there's the potential to hack elections equipment, that's one of the sort of a small sideshow that whether that was going on. That's got to be stopped, and our intelligence agencies ought to be used and maximized to see to it that foreign governments aren't able to do that. A lot of the interference that occurred, other than that, from the Russians was, number one, hacking the email, the DNC, and the other thing was a propaganda operation, using social media, fake accounts, and boosting them to put messages out in the American political scene. Let's not be naive. Foreign powers have been using propaganda as long as there have been nations, and they will continue to do so. The best answer to it is to have an informed citizenry, a robust debate in which Americans maintain civic and civil discourse among one another and don't demonize each other and do character assassination and smears on political opponents, as Dan McCready's machine has done in this
Senator,
case,
thank you.
with the help of the Observer.
Mr. McCready, please respond.
Let me tell you my view on election security, because I've lived through it. We had a close race last fall. It was one of the closest and toughest races in the country. And I thought we'd lost. I took my kids and Laura over to Disney World, which actually turns out to be one of the worst places you could go after a campaign if you're looking to rest. But we got back and we found out about absentee ballots being stolen from voters' doorsteps. We found out about signatures being forged and about vote choices being filled in for people. We found out that they had targeted the elderly, they had targeted African American voters, they had targeted Native American voters in the largest case of election fraud in recent American history. When we found that out, it would have been easy to throw in the towel. But I thought it was the right thing to do to fight back. We did everything that we could to shine a light on this fraud, and I am proud that today the Elections Board, in a unanimous decision, had called for a new election. People are starting to be indicted. Hopefully they'll be in jail soon. And this election on September 10th, as important it is to stop State Senator Bishop's attacks on our health care and our schools, it's also important to stand up for our right to vote.
Mr. McCready, thank you very much. Christine, I want to give you one more question this segment.
Despite your political differences, how important do you think it is to work across the aisle? Specifically, what in your past gives voters good reason to think you would do so?
Well,
Mr. McCready, let me start with him this time because we started with you last time. Mr. McCready.
My entire campaign